Hello, all. Welcome to a really fun live session with Can AI be a recruiter's best friend? First of all, yes, let's just get that out of the way. But I have amazing guests with me today. So I'm going to do just a quick intro. And if you don't know me, I am the CEO of Talent Perch and Thriversity and the Millionaire Recruiter YouTube channel. So let's get into it. So first we have Chad MacRae, who is the VP and head of talent at Tinder. He's a recruiting leader and design thinker with over 18 years of experience in TA and 12 years of leading teams. So throughout his career, he has worked with a variety of organizations, including Tinder, Plenty of Fits, Match, Grinder. I'm seeing some dating stuff. Nice. Love that. He's a strong believer in sharing experience and knowledge, and he's been featured all over the place. Forbes, Business Insider, the Huffington Post, SHRM, the Undercover Recruiter, and CBS. So welcome, Chad.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good to be here.
Next, we have Elena Stefanopol, Director of Recruiting at Labelbox. And she has been designing human-centered people systems since 2013, a remote work-lifelong fan and practitioner, and leading the team in talent function and growing a ton over at Labelbox. So that's really fun. And then we have Sasha Martin, who is the head of talent acquisition and people ops at Vareto. She is where she leads all aspects of hiring, HR, people ops. That's a lot. And she is the former head of recruiting at Shelf Engine, where she built the recruiting function from scratch and increased the company headcount by 3 times. Previously, she also had talent acquisition roles at Facebook, Smartsheet, and Impurity. Heavy hitters today. Thank you. Welcome. All right. So let's get into it. You guys do have a feature on the backside that you can ask questions. This is a meaty subject. I think anyone and everyone has been talking about AI, but we'll try to get to some questions at the end. So let's definitely make it interactive. Okay, so let's just get right into it. And this one I'm going to roundtable on you all for sure. We'll start with Chad here on this one. I think that in general, people are scared of AI just replacing them. And it's not just in recruiting and TA, it's all over the place. So I just want to grasp are you talking to your teams about this? Are you reassuring them that this wouldn't happen? Or what kind of stuff are you setting up for your team?
Yeah, my team and I have had this as a conversation point for the last 4 to 5 years while being here. We actually have some AI tools that we do utilize and have implemented in 2019. So we think of AI as more of a partner to what we do. Our jobs in HR and people there's still such a huge administrative burden on what we do, from offers to interview processing and references and so on. So this can be a good tool for you to utilize to be a partner.
Yeah, nice. So have you had anyone actually say, hey, am I losing my job because of AI?
No, no.
Not yet.
Really, when I think of like AI, when I think of recruiters, if you are a recruiter that submits resumes, doesn't understand the profile, and you continue to send resumes that are not screened to hiring managers, that could be outsourced to AI. So really, I think recruiters really need to understand the enterprise purpose of the organization. What is your business strategy, and how do you tie that to your talent acquisition strategy? So I'm seeing a pivot within TA to become more strategic business partners to the organization, which I think is a really good move.
Yeah, love that. I'm going to get into that later because we talk about that all the time. How do we get a seat at the table? Elena, what's going on in your team right now?
Yeah, I mean, Labelbox is in the middle of all of this AI revolution, which is super exciting as an industry. So, of course, we've been talking about how it affects recruiting. I think I'm on the same page with Chad. We're looking at this as something that can enable us to be more efficient, to be more strategic. The way I specifically wanted to set up recruiting at Labelbox when I started was as a strategic partner from the get-go. And I think now with this is just kind of pushing us there and is kind of giving us that boost to be that strategic partner. So I'm super excited for it. There's are some tactical things that we can, and we have been talking about, like how do we actually leverage, for example, ChatGPT in our day to day, like from extracting competencies from job descriptions to maybe designing some interview questions. Like what are all of those things that we kind of have that blank page, freeze whenever we have to start something? How can we bypass that? And I think that's one of the biggest yeah, just biggest kind of areas that we've leveraged it so far, but we're always exploring ways to incorporate it more because it's so helpful for us.
Yeah, agreed. Giant fan of ChatGPT, and it's so interesting though because it's so long-winded. It's like,
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
so
teach you how to
poetic.
stop
Yeah.
this song.
You need to get it back to the point, but it's a great tool. I love it.
Cut to the chase. Sasha, how are things going internally for you right now with that?
Yeah, so I'm operating as a one person people team, managing everything from talent acquisition through onboarding, through employee well being, and ongoing growth. And so I'm always thinking, I'm always kind of balancing my capacity and what I consider taking my job from good to great. And there's always compromises, and I always have to make strategic uh, compromises, I guess, just to get work done. And so when thinking about AI stepping in and empowering me to really spend my time on the strategic work and really bring the human element into that very complex uh, journey of candidate going all the way from the early application to a successful career. Um, there's just not enough time in the day that one person can do. And then thinking of scaling teams, just like Chad and Elena were speaking about their teams, um, unlocking the human potential and really spending that quality time with our teams and candidates is invaluable. So we need to think about AI as our friend, and just leverage it.
Yeah, so wait, you're a one-person show over there?
Yes,
Like,
yes. It
wow,
happens.
okay.
Um,
That's a
yeah,
different subject.
yeah, it's been kind of my niche. I tend to be the first person coming in, and so I'm stepping into chaos, and I come in with a picture of what great looks like, but you can't do it all. So you always kind of start with the most critical things and continue evolving. And so AI has been incredible in taking off some of the admin and repetitive
Yeah.
tasks off my plate. So yeah.
Okay, so then I'm going to just segue right into the next question with you because, what parts of the recruiting process are you currently replacing with a bot?
Yeah. So when you think about any of the repetitive communication, so starting with sourcing, sending out emails to candidates, prospective candidates, we're actually leveraging Kavi for this. And it's been really a um, iterative process to really find our own voice with the AI. Starting with Covey, for example, was, we began by fully relying on everything as far as templates and building our processes. But then we started kind of taking a step back and really looking at what can we do to make the AI be a little more human-like. And so we managed to achieve a really seamless process where candidates are actually interacting with Covey AI, where I'm not even involved until later stage in the interview process. But we've been able to really make it a human-like experience where candidates receive a ton of specialized information to not only introduce them to the company, but to prep them for interviews and really set them up for success. And that has really allowed us to achieve amazing consistency with the candidate experience. If you rely on just a person like me, I'm always going to adjust, my delivery style to the candidate. But using a consistent process with AI really evens out the field and makes it an equitable process.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So when I heard, first of all, consistency, because that is so hard. And like we can talk about like, people get really upset when they feel ghosted by recruiters or when things take too long. And it's like what they don't see if they pay a little more attention was, oh, I have 1,000 applicants and the job's been open for less than a week. So like they don't realize like actually we're trying to put human touches on things. We're trying to be consistent. We're trying to go 24 hours, 48 hours to feedback. It's hard. It is hard. But what I love too is that you're trying to teach AI your voice, your style, and your process. Which again, I mean, I know that's difficult, and I know that still takes a little bit, and I don't know how close we are there. But it is coming. But the human element, you don't have it, then it's like, what? Why are we joining teams? Like at that point, I think that there's a really big like entrepreneur spirit that's going on right now, and so without the human aspect, like why are they joining you? Chad, where are you putting? What process are you doing with the replacing with bots?
Yeah, what we actually did, we went through a journey mapping exercise on our organization. So really the recruiter experience, the candidate experience, and hiring manager experience, and what people were thinking and feeling and doing throughout those processes. So what that highlighted was, where is the administrative burden? Where are we having issues with finding the right talent? And that highlighted that what tools that we'd move forward with. So tools that we did put in place, we put in Textio for inclusive language. So that's been very helpful for our organization. We do have a natural language search product as well that helps with talent pipelining and sourcing. It updates our applicant tracking system with the current employer as well. So your ATS is no longer a black hole. It is up to date with the right information. So those are the main areas that we've focused on. We are going to be doing another journey mapping exercise in the coming months for mid-year planning to really think through what does the future of talent look like and what else can we help utilize AI to complement our internal team.
First of all, I love the word journey mapping. I think I love that. But I love that you got hiring managers involved. What did they want to see?
Yeah, so really Tinder, what we do a great job at is co-designing. We get different groups together and get different stakeholders together to think through some of the pain points. And that really helps with change management. Hiring managers always want to know, hey, like I want more resumes yesterday. So really what we've done is utilizing some of these tools to drive insights for the market. So really helping the organization see around corners to understand what talent is actually available in the market that they're looking for. So when your recruiters are empowered with that data and coming to the hiring leaders, you are a trusted partner through that process.
Nice. Okay, I can't help but ask, how often is talent interacting with hiring managers?
Like every single day, every single minute, yes.
Okay, good. I hear, trust me, I hear a lot, so I have to ask. Elena, so what's going on with what I know you talked about ChatGPT, but what else what kind of bots are you using in your recruiting process, or do you think you'll use?
Yeah, we just implemented Modern Loop for scheduling. I think that scheduling piece is really one of the biggest admin burdens that we can't avoid, and it's so crucial to the candidate experience. So Modern Loop for us has been really cool. For that scheduling piece, but also to manage our interviewer training program and automatically schedule people in for like shadowing, reverse shadowing, making sure they're up to speed and trained and ready to be interviewers. So again, going back to that candidate experience. So that's something that's very important to us. And we want to make sure that whoever is interacting with the candidate is consistent and talks in the same way about Labelbox, about the opportunity, has the same understanding about the role, about the process. So it doesn't have to be only the recruiter who knows like what's the next step, right? Like everyone needs to know what's coming next, and be able to to be that support for the candidate throughout the process. So yeah, that's the latest one. But again, we kind of ChatGPT is across all of our work at the moment. So.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Do you also use it for any kind of like DEI work in the interview process or?
Not at the moment. That's something that we are starting to look into. We're still a pretty small company. We've been going through a lot lately, so trying to kind of make sure we're balancing everything we need to be balancing. But yeah, this is something that's similar to Chad. We're going to go into a mid-year planning and see what are the areas that we can actually dive deeper into now in this new context, because everything changed so much since our last, annual planning meeting. So we need to adjust.
It's so true, right? And when you come from a DEI perspective, like we haven't been able to train humans to not have bias, and large language models are only as good as the product put into it. So, be interesting to see how that progresses.
Yeah, because the bot also messes up because, as it's digging online, like there was a big thing about ChatGPT when they were putting things in, it came back very racist. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, it's because, well, what do we have out there? Where is it grabbing it from? And so, yeah, that's all really interesting stuff. But you would think, like I know someone that company that is trying to develop a bot for soft skills, soft skills, the new hard skills, not so soft. It's like, can we do that? Because naturally with soft skills, so much bias comes in depending on who you're talking to, on what you actually find to be like to move the needle for your team. That's really difficult. Sasha, do you have something to
Yeah.
add there?
Yeah, I was just going to add that that's really where we come in as talent leaders and people leaders to really set the tone for the organization. Um, the AI has no way of understanding what our culture is and how we want to uphold it. So this is where we really have to leverage our insights and our humanity and drive that tone as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Question, are your guys' processes like just like so the whole interview process in general, is that listed on your site? Like how are you, because I think we could probably leverage that a little bit with a bot, although we still want the human aspect. Is anyone being full transparency on like what to expect?
We just updated that. It went live, I think, a few days ago.
Oh, nice.
What to expect, how we're interviewing, our operating principles, even the decision-making process in that hiring phase. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible. We have been doing that, but more in a one-on-one context, right? Like my recruiters talking to the candidates, but we definitely want to put it out there. Like this is what you can expect by, joining the team, by going through the interview process with us. So yeah, we definitely want to have that out there for everyone to see and make a decision based on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, same for
We've
us.
just updated our career site with it as well, so it's been good to showcase that and have full transparency. And then we do have prep docs we prepare for the candidates as well, so they know what they're walking into the day of the interview.
Yeah,
That
we're
I love.
reading
I
behind.
I love the prep behind that. I know that sometimes I've gotten pushback from the hiring managers, like that's cheating, But like, I don't understand why we wouldn't prepare people. Like, I'm even, I guess, curious on if we want to even post what we ask. I mean, I don't know. Like, is there something bad with letting them know what we do? Because I think that in the interview process, it's very anxiety filled, and that's not normally your best self.
I
It's
I
Yeah,
very
that's
totally
an
Go ahead, Sasha.
understand. Oh, sorry, thank you. I very much agree with that. I think when I initially started introducing prep guides for our candidates, there was a little bit of a concern coming from the hiring managers. Is this fair? Are they over prepped? But when you actually have consistency, and also you need to realize what are you testing for in the interview process. If I'm hiring a salesperson, I want that person to be able to think on their feet, respond to unexpected questions and objections. So sure, there's going to be some ambiguity in their process. But if I'm looking at software engineers, for example, I want everyone to fully understand what's our development process, how do we communicate, what good looks like, so that they can show us what we're looking for and their ability to do that. So we kind of did similar thing to what Chad and Elena shared. We put together preparation guides for every single position, and it was one of the most non-scientific processes ever. It was literally me taking every question that was coming to me through the scheduling process to really address any questions or objections candidates had. So it really maps out, why Vareto, what can you expect in this role, what can you expect in your 30, 60, 90 days. What does every step of the interview process contain? What are the timelines for decisions between individual steps? Even to the extent of how is your interview going to be scheduled. We have moved to self-scheduled steps between each interview stage. So the candidate is really empowered to kind of drive themselves through the process. Of course, with the presence of a recruiter bot being by their side. So,
Elena, did you have something to add?
Yeah, completely forgot that we are using a new tool for this candidate journey. It's called Staff Party, and it's exactly that, our ability to create these candidate journeys for a particular role, and it maps out exactly stage by stage for the candidate, and it's personalized for that particular individual, so they can see exactly, it's kind of like their dashboard of like where they are with Labelbox in the process. And that's also where we have our offer visualization, and it's really cool and it's really helped with our offer acceptance rate and overall candidate experience. So, but yeah, we also used to have those PDFs that we would send or whatever it is, so kind of, just evolved with that. It's been a really nice, I guess, progression of that, and candidates have been very happy to see that. I'm very excited for it. It's pretty new.
I love that. The what to expect on anything is so like massive. Again, I think it goes back to like relieve some kind of anxiety. Is that an app? Like I could look at.
Yeah, it integrates with that. We use Lever for our ATS, so it integrates with Lever. I believe they
Oh,
have an
cool.
integration with Greenhouse as well. Not sure, but yeah, it works as a on top of our ATS. So as soon as you hit a certain stage, that's when the journey activates for that person automatically. So you don't have to worry about like, have I sent the prep materials before the interview, and so it's been a really cool tool for my team as well.
I like that. Now, my question is, it could be controversial, but can we teach a bot to be more aggressive? So, Sasha, I'm listening to you saying, oh, hey, we let the candidate decide when they want to schedule. And I think that there's some goods and bads to that, there is going to be some other human probably being more aggressive in getting them in on site with their company or in the final stages or like pushing those through. And naturally, I think people like to just go with the easier route. And so the easier route is the one who is kind of pushing the schedule. Do you have any problems with that?
From my perspective, there are always some trade-offs that we have to consider. Some of those are our internal resources, our team's capacity, how much actual oversight do we need to involve in each interview process. And so if we're working with a very, very lean lean teams like ours, I have to really focus on what's going to be the operationally least involved process. And in that specific case, the self-service experience for the candidate has been really efficient. This allows us to really protect our interview team's time, and also be respectful to the candidate's time. So, for example, in my previous roles with larger companies where we had more resources, it was very convenient to do a recruiter screen, tech screen, and then schedule the interview loop as a series of one-on-one interviews back to back. And it was fine to commit the 5 hours of our team ahead of time, regardless of the outcome. But working with a very small, lean team, we prefer to commit to 1 hour at a time, and also allow the candidate to kind of drive their process and the speed of their interview. It comes with commitments, of course. We do have to really stick to our SLAs for interview feedback and quick decisions. That way, if we can have an interview and a same day decision and communication to the candidate right away, we can have the next interview scheduled for the very next day. And depending on the signal we're getting, we can expedite the whole process. But the AI has really empowered us to just kind of do that and allow the candidate to drive their preferred speed. That said,
Sure.
if we're working on positions that are much more high volume and we're looking to move quicker, We can definitely tell the AI to schedule multiple interviews at once and get through the process much quicker.
Yeah, I like that. So we can teach them to be aggressive.
Yes.
Okay, so how do you think AI is going to be able to drive revenue? I mean, obviously, if it drives efficiency, that's going to be driving revenue. But like, perhaps on like the talent side, like, how do we think that's going to really affect things? Can it affect things? Elena, what's your thought on that?
That's an interesting question. Hmm. Well, I mean, as you said, everything we do as a team, as a company, affects revenue, especially with talent. We need to make sure we have the right talent in place to be able to hit our revenue goals overall. So I think, we're talking about AI and kind of the recruiting hiring space, but I think there's a big opportunity on the onboarding space to really customize that journey as well, because that's the most, I think, when talking about quality of hire and like time to productivity, that onboarding piece is really crucial to set up the new hire for success and for productivity, for revenue. So I think that would be kind of the next step I would think of, to kind of see how we can automate, personalize, and empower the new hire to be more productive faster. But yeah, I would be curious to hear from the others.
I agree with you too. Like, just onboarding is very key to bring the right people in at the right time. From a natural language processing piece, we can eventually look at skills within an employer, the employee base, and see what skills you actually have internally, which will save cost savings because you could potentially focus on internal mobility or also focus on skills gap training as well. So I think that's going to be another piece that you will see coming, a lot more skills-based hiring and skills-based internal mobility.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. My mind immediately goes to retention.
Yeah.
It's like a swing door sometimes. And so it's like, you're right. If we have onboarding key, if we have internal mobility and they see those things we can empower internally, that naturally, like if you're loyal to them normally, they'll be
Yeah.
loyal to you. And I think that by us identifying those things, for me, I always like to use lots of different skills, because I think people have geniuses outside of their actual role, and a lot of them don't speak up. So like, I know when I onboard, and I haven't used a bot yet for this, but I need to, but when I onboard, I ask, I genius map them essentially. And so that is right now an automated, the process we have to do, but we look at it all as a team, as to like even just the soft skills. Okay, we have this person here, that person here. Now maybe we could, hey, if we ever have this project, would you want to do that? But I think like, yeah, we could definitely put automation on that. That would be massive. And then I think it goes to, again, retention, which makes people really happy at their jobs
Yeah.
because they get to do that.
Adding to that, like really maybe using automation to close the gap between performance management and talent quality as well. So I think that's some areas that we need to focus on with partnerships with our HR ops team.
Yeah, 100%. Sasha, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when I first heard that question, you kind of pause, because recruiting and HR are not necessarily revenue generating teams, but the the people at the organization are the most expensive resource. That's where all of your resources go to, and there is undeniable cost to loss of productivity if we don't fill positions quickly. Uh, One of the most expensive mistakes you can make is a wrong hire. So really missing skills and qualifications and attributes in the interview process because of lack of consistency or because of how we ask questions. That can be extremely expensive. And then also kind of just how we run the interview process. Do we have the understanding of our actual cost per hire, and who all is involved? How many engineers spend time answering questions that could have been answered throughout the process? Same thing with, just like Chad was mentioning, internal mobility. Are we really truly understanding employees' preferences and their aspirations and what they actually need to be successful? So there are quite a lot of tools that help map out happiness and fulfillment on the team, which I'm exploring right now. I also came across another tool that basically allowed candidates to provide their references early on in the process, and then AI bot would follow up with those references with very cleverly crafted questions to get specific feedback on the tendencies of the candidate. What are their strengths? What are some coachings that they've received? So it's not necessarily, would you recommend this person for the job, but more like, how do they show up on a stressful day? And then you can come up with a really specifically personalized onboarding document that really like fast forwards the conversation a new hiring manager and their new employee would have. So there's quite a lot we can do to impact revenue and just efficiency of the organization. And we're just scratching the surface right now. There's so much coming our way, so it's super exciting.
The background check's really interesting because I just did one for someone, and what was a reference check? And they asked me so many no questions. And I was like, okay, again, it was an older employee of mine, a really good friend of mine as well at this point, and I knew she wanted the job. So
Yeah.
it was like such a weird conversation because I knew I'm not really supposed to be answering these questions. It was very deep, very like, wow, couldn't believe you asked these things. So I do like that aspect of stuff because again, it's like we got to keep even playing fields on a lot of things, and that's definitely one of them. That's interesting.
And what you just mentioned is something I'm super passionate about, Brianna. Candidates learn so much about our organization based on our process, the questions we're asking, the information we're providing, and even more so what we don't ask. That tells them so much about our desire to lean in and be an excellent employer. So that's a big flag. What you've experienced.
No, yeah, I called her immediately and I was like, I'm just letting you know I rocked this for you, but you
Yeah.
might want to keep your eyes and ears open on this one. And sure enough, she's only been there for 2 weeks and it's like, I understand
Yeah.
what you were saying. I'm like, okay. But yeah, you're right. Like every single moment you're representing your company and your cultures and your values and stuff. And so yeah, that's a difficult one. So then how do we, I mean, yes, there's tons of lacks of training, I feel like in all different aspects, especially in recruiting. So how are, we'll start with Elena on this one. How are you going to train your staff on how to use AI and, the what not to do's, the what to do's?
Yeah, well, I think again because of the industry and our product, I think we're all, very much aware of how things are evolving and how we can leverage AI in our different aspects in our roles. One of the exercises that we've done recently with our interviewers was to kind of chat GPT proof our technical questions. So, because obviously we're talking about it, candidates are also thinking about it and talking about it. And so, how do we still, evaluate and assess different skill sets in this new context? And so, we asked our interviewers to go through the interview questions as a candidate while using ChatGPT and seeing what was the extent of, the like what answers we can expect. And then from there, we had to adjust kind of the follow-up questions that we would be asking. So we're not saying don't use it. We actually were trying to test the waters and see how much it can actually help or solve from, the questions that we were asking. And it turns out quite a lot. And so we had to do some adjustments, but it's all good. Like we want to be transparent. It would be a little bit hypocritical from our side to be like, don't use ChatGPT, don't use AI. Like we're Labelbox, so no, we can't do that. So we definitely want to be transparent and say like, hey, if you want to use it, use it. But I do at the same time, we want to make sure that our interviewers are prepared to still fully assess the candidate and their skill set in this context with these tools. So that was an interesting, eye-opening exercise, especially for my interviewers, because they're like, oh no, it's not going to be that different. And when they went through it, I was like, oh, we need to change this and that. So yeah, it was really good to go through it.
I love that. And here's that human aspect of things that bot will not beat us on is you chose to make them go through that. Like
Yes.
the bot's
Yeah.
not telling you, hey, red flags over here.
Yeah.
Love that. Chad, what's your thoughts on training the recruiters on AI?
Yeah, when you think of new technology coming in, there's the Gartner's hype curve. So there's all this hype going on about ChatGPT and how to implement it. But what you have to really be key on is just the awareness of the change within the organization, your desire of change, and the ability to do so within the organization and reinforce it. So I would suggest anyone that's looking to build out or utilize AI tools, make sure you work with your legal team to understand, can you utilize it? What are the ethics behind the AI that you're using as well? There's a lot of good resources on the White House website. Also, University of Oxford has set up an AI program as well. So take a look on some of their websites before actually implementing the tools. Because right now it's like free for all. Everyone's just jumping on, utilizing it. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row first.
Yeah. I just recently saw the big New York thing on that they can't use AI in certain aspects of hiring. And I was like, oh gosh, I got to read all of this. And then I got to think which one of my clients have an office in New York. And, but you're right. Like educating yourself on a regular basis is really, really, really important. Wow. Sasha, what are you going to do? Or actually, wait, you're a one-person show. How are you training yourself?
Yeah. So really identifying where I want to make improvements and what do I want to lean um, on AI to take care of. So because I'm a one-person team, there's of course a lot of collaboration with hiring managers and the leaders, and I leverage that. But when I start, I've stolen this idea of disaster brainstorming to really kind of step away from my own biases. And the process is basically when I think about, like, let's say I want to improve my interview process, my scheduling process. I start with brainstorming what an absolutely awful experience would look like. I go all the way to the details, then I completely take it to the next level, delayed follow up, lack of feedback, mistakes in scheduling confirmation, insufficient information for the candidates, unprepared interview team, you name it. So I come up with the worst absolute experience for interviewing. And then I bring my other whiteboard and start doing the absolute opposite. So what can I do to make it absolutely amazing? So how do I prevent all of these horrible mistakes? And then I pick, where do we have a gap? Comparing the grade with our existing process, and that's what I go for. So, again, it's a balancing act. You want to make sure that the input you put in has the ROI and is going to be well balanced. But in my roles, especially in those small companies, the size of my team does fluctuate occasionally, especially when there's heavy growth. I will hire people for my team. And I've always leaned toward people who were, in addition to recruiting experience, they need to be curious and they need to be tech savvy. That's always been my criteria for my team. A lot of recruiting and HR tools go underutilized because we're trying to move quickly and get our work done. And we don't always have the luxury of fully exploring every function, every feature. So when I do build my teams, I look for people who will challenge it, who will be, curious and dig deeper into, hey, what's this function? What's this new release? For example, Greenhouse constantly evolves. And just that curiosity allowed us to unlock a lot of the automation in the process. So building a team that leans into it rather than, pushes back on technology, that's my first key. And then really questioning everything we do all over again. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, is that it's like adopting technology is its own separate part of training. It's like you can train all you want on something and then naturally they just don't use it. And so I think that it would be just such a shame. I think it's the same to pay for anything and not use it. But AI in particular, on when it actually frees time up for you to do really what you should be focusing on, which in my opinion is the exact candidate experience is building on, hey, this is how you can be a culture ad here. Here's what we can bring to you. Like all of those things should, I don't think, ever be touched by a bot. Chad, what other things in recruiting, or you feel free to say the same thing, do you think should just never be touched by a bot? Like a bot will never win this war.
I would say that like the full interview process, when you think of what recruiters do well, it's HQCs, it's high quality connections. As individuals, we have a lot of temporary connections with people. So really, how do you feel when you have that connection? You have a sense of vitality, you feel energized, you feel respected. There's some psychological safety within the conversation as well. So if we outsource the full interview process to a bot, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, agreed. Elena, where's your head on that one?
I think my mind just went to the offer negotiation stage because that would be funny to see. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't see myself as a candidate negotiating in the last final stages with an AI. It's just, I don't see that happening. It might have all of the, the things to throw at you and like really, win the negotiation, but just that experience, kind of back to what Chad was saying, like that human connection, I don't think that needs to be replaced. So I think, kind of balancing like, okay, what we do in technology, I think balance is the key, right? Like I don't think we're looking to fully, just replace. I think replace is really a harsh word in kind of like our work. It's really just leveraging as much as we can, but still kind of being on top of that. That's how I see it.
I tend to think that there's a lot of problems with, whoever is not in talent doesn't really understand everything that goes into it and all of the moving parts and stuff. So I get a little worried about some, like CEOs that literally have not even spent time investing into what we do, being like, well, of course you can put a bot into offer and we'll save some money. Like, and so it's like the bot's not going to get emotional. They don't know the candidate. They don't care about that. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's probably some people having those conversations right now.
I mean, if I was ever in such a conversation, I would say, good luck to you. We will talk in a few months when this fails.
Which brings me to, Chad, I have to just bring this round circle. And I know that we're just coming up on time right now, but how do we get that seat at the table, to show really just true value as human beings?
Yeah, as human beings and being a true talent partner, you really need to understand, of course, the business, but you also have to understand the macroeconomic factors that are happening around the business as well. So we couldn't have predicted the pandemic. We couldn't have predicted the war in Russia. So really getting in the insights of understanding the business and the external factors and what your circle of influence that you can actually accomplish as well.
Mm-hmm. Sasha, now I know you have an interesting perspective because again, you're running the show fully. So how do you have your seat like firm in place and saying like, hey, this is the strategies I'm going to build out and here's why I'm going to build them?
I just take that seat. But no,
you just sit down.
I just sit down and But no, this really starts at the very initial conversations. If I'm evaluating an opportunity, I really want to understand what the human capital means to the co-founders. How do they think about quality experience for their employees? And so there are some initial red flags that you can avoid in your career. And so if you start with a solid understanding and foundation, you can build upon it. But really continuously, it's a relationship industry. We are building relationships with the leadership. Every tier of leadership cares about a different thing in talent acquisition or HR. So really speaking people's language. And that's something that will take a really long time to replace with a bot because we really understand what keeps different people in the leadership up at night and really educating them every single day and have them understand the impact to their everyday work, to our company's success. That's our job. That's where I think, like Chad was saying, that's what we can't replace. We need to have that human element connecting all the insanely efficient tactical processes. We need to give them a meaning. People will buy in if they understand the why. So that would be my approach.
Yeah, I love that. And something I actually just heard the other day, literally for the first time, was you have to speak to someone's listening style. You know, like we talk about like listening very actively and keeping, I was like, their listening style. Yes. You know, like, okay, bots can't do that. But yeah, I found that to be very interesting. And like throughout, like, I just think about like all the different hiring managers and all the ones that we have to, you know, get on board and say, hey, we're going to do it this way because of this data and all of those things. Like there's so much skill to that. There's so much tactic, and you can run data all day long, which again, that's bots' job to do, but they can't dissect it and understand it and feel it, I think, the way
Yeah.
we can.
And the storytelling as well. Like really,
Yeah.
data is only as good as what's inputted, but you as an individual have to be able to bring that story to life for the business.
Love that. Love that. Okay, we are a minute over, so I think we still did a great job. So thank you all. Chad, Elena, Sasha, thank you so much. Thank you, Covey, for hosting this. I think we could talk about AI all day long because it is changing our world just but enhancing it. So thank you.
Thank you.